One of my favorite stretches to do to help with hip mobility, if you have really tight hips or if you sit all day, by doing this stretch daily for weeks and months, you can really start to see some improvement with your hips. You want to sit down in front, just sit on the floor, put your front knee at 90 degrees, hip is at 90 degrees, knee at 90 degrees, and ankle at 90 degrees. The back hip, or this top hip, we're also going to put the knee at 90 degrees and the ankle at 90 degrees. You want a straight line from this front foot down to the front of the back lower leg. That's the setup. Next thing, if you have this upper hip's tight, you'll find that you want to sit back, but the more you can sit up, pushing this hip forwards will help give you a better stretch into that hip. Now the goal of this stretch, we can stretch both hips in this position. This top hip, there's a space between your thigh and the floor. The goal would be to minimize that space over time. So after doing this for months at a time, you'll find that this space will decrease. You can also see I have my hand here to support myself. Another goal would be able to sit up tall without having to support yourself. Okay, those are little checkpoints you can go along your time as you go through this stretch, as you continually to do it over and over again. We're first going to stretch this top hip here. First thing, as I said before, I'm going to turn this hip forwards, kind of turning your pelvis forwards. You'll get a better stretch on the bottom part of the thigh, of the groin. You may feel pressure up here. That's because this hip's really tight. If you feel pressure on the top of the hip, it's because you're jamming this area. And that over time will get better as you go through this stretch. So tilting your pelvis forwards, imagine your knee, pushing your knee away from you. So it's going to distract this hip. You're imagining this hip distracting it from your pelvis. Imagine pushing that hip away, and then you can sit up a little taller. And that's the little micro motion that we want to do for this top hip. So push that away, sit up taller, and just sit up tall for 30 seconds to a minute. This bottom hip, we can stretch the back side and the outside of the hip by 2 different stretches, each with each shoulder. So I'm gonna do the same shoulder. If I lean forwards, bringing that same shoulder to the knee, I can feel a stretch along my hamstrings and the back side of the hip. Hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. Come up and do the opposite shoulder to this knee and get a different angle of that hip. And sit up tall. And then we switch sides. And that's the 90-90 stretch.